Okay, so this one says solve by the quadratic formula, list the solutions separated by commas. Okay, so let me bring it down here. 2x squared equals 14x minus 20. Okay, so let's talk about here solving with x squared and x to the first power, because that's the deal we have here. We have an x squared and we have a regular x. So what do you do when you have an x squared and a regular x? Step number one is to get a 0 on one side. So you've got to get a 0 on one side. So to get a 0, I just get it on the right side usually. So here's my wall. Let me put the wall in here. There's a wall of separation, like so. Okay.
Aren't we on number 2?
No, we are on number 3. We did number 1, but it was the same for 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are identical, and there's videos for both those already. 3 is where things change. All right, so subtract to get a 0 on the right side. Subtract 14x and add 20. Why am I deciding to do that? Because I want both these guys to cancel out. And whatever you do to one side, you have no choice but to do the same thing to the other. Like that. Is that making sense? What am I doing? I'm getting a 0 on one side. So what does that give me then? 2x squared minus 14x plus 20 equals 0. There's nothing on the right side now. Because why? Because I did the opposite of 14x by doing minus 14x. I did the opposite of minus 20 by doing plus 20. And I did it to both sides. So we got a 0 on one side. That's the first step. Now you've got to identify A, B, and C. So A is the number next to x squared, B is the number next to x, and C is the number that comes after that. That's your A, B, and C. Step 2. Identify A, B, and C. So, and then plug in to the quadratic formula. All right, so what is the quadratic formula? Quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, let me write that out again. So this, I'll put this in the notes so you have it. So the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I'll go over here with that. So there it is. There's the quadratic formula. This is what we use whenever we solve an equation that has x squared and regular x. We get a 0 on one side, identify A, B, and C, and then plug into this formula, the quadratic formula. Now remember, when we plug things into formulas, we put parentheses. This is not just for the quadratic formula, for all formulas in math. When we plug in, we put parentheses around what we're plugging in. So, so in other words, I'm going to plug the minus 14 in right there, and the minus 14 in there as well, because B goes in both those spots, and etc. So, all right, so what do we get? We're going to get negative, and then I'm going to plug in B, which is negative 14. Double negative is going to become positive in a minute, isn't it? Everybody see that? That's a place where sometimes people mess up. They don't see the double negative part there. Everybody see what happened there? Right? The formula has a negative sign built in. The formula has a bunch of stuff built in, right? Negatives, plus or minuses, a 2, a 4, right? That negative built into the formula is in addition to any negative numbers you plug in for A, B, or C. So B is negative 14. So when I plug in negative 14 right here for B, then the negative that's part of the formula hits the negative 14. Double negative is going to become positive in a minute. All right, so anyway, you just keep plugging in with parentheses A, B, and C. So here's B again, minus 4, and then plug in A and C. A is 2, C is 20, and then on the bottom, 2 times A, and A is 2. There we go. So I just plugged everything in, plugged in the A, B, and C with parentheses to the quadratic formula. Okay, so now what becomes of that? Well, I can do another line maybe right here. So let's see, this is double negative, so this is positive 14 right there. Plus or minus the square root of, and now just use your calculator. This means negative 14 times negative 14. And you know it's going to be positive, right? Because two negatives make a positive. So 196. And then this one is minus, and then it's going to be 4 times 2 times 20, 160. And the bottom 2 times 2 is 4. Like that. And then we keep going. Getting closer. It just gets nicer and nicer as we get. And then this will be, what is this? This is 14 plus or minus. This is 36 over 4. All right. And that is getting closer. And then square root of 36, that's just 6, isn't it? Everybody see what happened there? Square root of 36 is just 6. So remember, whenever we have a number that is rootable, we do the root, and the root vanishes. No more root. And so after, yeah, I should say after rooting, the root leaves. Right? The square root does his job. Square root of 36 becomes 6, and then he vanishes. Okay, so now what are we going to do with this? Remember what plus or minus always means? Two options. Two options. Right here. So it always means two options. So we're going to have 14 plus 6 over 4, or 14 minus 6. Everybody see those two options? Plus, minus. Right? You do the two different options. And so then just finish that up. What is that? 20 over 4, 5. And this one is, which is 8 over 4, 2. There's our two answers. 5 and 2. We got it. So we just go back up. You just type these in either order. You put the 5 first, then the 2 first, then the 5. Doesn't matter. Just separate them by commas, like they said. And we're done. We got the two answers. So we just kept working it out. And finally, after doing the square root, after the square root was gone, then we just did the two different answers, the options, the plus and the minus. And that just came on down. 20 over 4 is 5, and 8 over 4 is 2. And so there we go. So again, what do you do when you have x squared and regular x? You get a 0 on one side. With my first step, you had to get a 0 first. We did that. And then we identify A, B, and C. We peel them off. A, B, and C are the numbers in front of x squared, x, and the number at the back. Plug them into the quadratic formula and carefully work it out. And there we go. Questions I can answer?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So the line that goes under the quadratic formula, that's also going over negative b on the left side.
Yeah, very good
And so,
question, Alexander.
And it's,
yeah, that goes.
And so it's not also, so it's not a fraction. It is a fraction, but you don't, do it as a fraction with the square root. You do the square root first, correct?
Right, it is a fraction, but yeah, but you're right. The bar goes all, yeah, good point. That's an important point. I like it. That's a common mistake students make, is they think that the thing is only under the root. But you're right. Look, notice that bar goes all the way, right? So that bottom 2a, or whatever ends up in the bottom, in our case 4, is under both of those guys. He's under both of them, not just the square root part. Excellent observation. See as we come on down here, see how this 4 is under both of them?
Yeah.
Not just the 6 part, not just the back part. And then a bit there, he's under both. Now you think, yeah, but here he's only under one thing. Well, yeah, because they combine. The 14 and the 6 on the top combined together to be just one thing. He's still under both of them. They're just both into one thing now.
Okay, and so
That
you
makes
do
sense?
this,
A good
and once you do the square root symbol is gone, correct?
Exactly. Once you do the square root, it vanishes.
Okay.
Now, what if it was a number that couldn't be square rooted, like 37? Well, then the square root would just stay. We would just leave it square root of 37. If you can't root it, you just leave the root. If the root can't do his job, he just stays there.
And does that become our answer? 14 plus the square root of 37 over 4?
Right, and then the minus. Right.
And then minus, and then so we would write out both of those problems.
Yeah, with a comma in between. Exactly. And it would just stay that way. Exactly. Good question. Other
Okay,
questions I can answer?
I have a question. How did you get 6 when it's 37?
Oh, it's not really, it was 36. I was just changing it to 37.
Oh, okay.
It's really 36. Yeah.
Okay.